All right, hello, beautiful people. Today we're talking about factors, and remember your essential question should already be written down. So I'm going to draw a line just a little bit to the right of my red line, okay, so that I can write extra stuff over here on the sides, like my questions, my comments, my pre-thinking. So what is a factor? So that's the first question that we're going to think about and answer. So a factor, okay, you've probably heard this word once or twice before, factor and multiples, but the problem is you hear them so close together that sometimes you forget what one means. So a factor, when I'm factoring things, is I'm finding things that divide a certain number. So factors are numbers that divide a product. Okay, so real quick here, I noticed that I used this word product. Okay, this word is a math term. Product means the answer to a multiplication problem. So the answer to a multiplication problem. Okay. So a factor divides a number like that. So for example, if I have a number, I'm going to write example right here when I make my example. If I have a number like 20, I want to think about factors of 20, things that divide 20. What number can I divide 20 by? Let's think for a second. There are a bunch of them. So pause this video, take a second, think about it. All right, so some numbers that will divide 20 are numbers like 2 and 4 and 5 and 10 and 1 and 20. Those are all factors of 20 because I can divide 20 by each of them. So to show that they're factors is I can do 20 divided by 2. And that equals 10, which gives me a whole number, which means that 2 is a factor. Okay. These are all factors. Okay. I like to annotate my notes so that I know what I'm talking about. So take a second, write something over here about what a factor is in case you're having a little bit of trouble. So look at my notes, figure out what you think a factor is. Now, when you're writing factors, you might think about factor pairs. So a factor pair. Now, a factor pair is like a factor. Again, you've probably heard this before, except it's in a pair. So a factor pair are two factors that multiply to equal the number. Two factors that multiply to equal a product. So again, a factor pair, two factors that multiply to equal a product. Okay, so an example of a factor pair, I'm going to again do my example in green. I'm going to write EX. Example is if I stick with 20, I can think of two numbers that multiply to equal 20. So think for a second. There are at least three factor pairs. Good, I hope that you came up with some. One factor pair of 20 is 4 and 5, because 4 times 5 equals 20. So this is a factor pair. Now the cool thing is we can use factor pairs to make arrays and those sorts of things if you remember what an array is. Over here in the left-hand side, I'm going to draw my 4 by 5 array. So I got 4 and 5. So 5 on this side, 4 on this side. If I count up all the squares that I've just now made, I've made 20 squares. So I've made an array. Factor pairs of 20 are also 1 and 20. So that's another factor pair. And also 2 and 10. Okay? All right, so that's video 1.